Hi, welcome to my channel. If you're new to my channel, please take the time to like my content, hit the subscribe and alert notification bell. Thank you. Today's topic, I'm going to discuss something that has been asked of me over the course of the last 16 years, constantly by friends from outside the Philippines. Basically, they want to know, is the Philippines safe for an expat? Is it safe in general? Is it safe to visit? And today I'm going to try to address my history of the Philippines, my visits, and how I felt safe and secure here over the course of the 16 years coming and living full-time here in the Philippines. First of all, I'm going to talk about safety in general and the difference between the Metro Manila and the province. And then I'm going to talk about pre-COVID, during COVID, and recently, as of now, after COVID. And has the security and safety in the Philippines changed for expats, or is it still the same? So I've been coming to and living in the Philippines off and on for the last 16 years. The last 8 years full-time in the Philippines. I live out in the province, and my experience is going to be related to the security and safety of an expat that lives in the province of the Philippines. I'll be honest with you, I spend as little time as possible in the metro areas such as Manila. Typically it's going to the airport or for an immigration run or for SNR as an example, or anything like that. I typically get in and get out. It's not that I don't like or feel afraid in Manila, it's just that I have no reason to stay or linger there. I go in, I do my task, and I leave. Out in the province, pre-COVID, I can say that I've never felt scared or nervous walking around by myself at night or during the daytime. I do live in a small community that 16 years ago was probably only 40,000 people. I think today it's around 87,000 people. They kind of know everybody and everyone's kind of related. Typically when I'm out walking about, I don't flash money, carry expensive things, be drunk in public, and these three things right there, anywhere in the world, will get you in trouble. So keep that in mind. But I've never been approached, robbed, pickpocketed, had anything stolen from me, with the exception of some minor trash stuff that might have been left outside. Pre-COVID, living out in the Philippines, I've never once felt concerned or had a security or safety issue happen. That said, let's talk about COVID. So COVID had a very dramatic effect on the people in the small town that I live in, who were barely going paycheck to paycheck, day to day as it was. And then all of a sudden to have pretty strict lockdowns and quarantines enforced on them pretty much left them in the first 6 months of the lockdowns for COVID making zero money. I mean, no money, and they weren't making much before. So the petty crime did pick up in the first 6 months of the COVID epidemic and resulting lockdown. It was noticeably more, you'd hear about it. I heard it from other people. Again, nothing that affected me at all that I could tell. I think people were just hungry and they weren't ready for being locked out of other towns, being locked into this town, not being able to go to work, and they were hungry. I get that. So I think the small spike in thefts mostly was probably due to just straight survival mode by a lot of the Filipinos out here. As the government finally started sorting out food distribution and sorting out ayuda payments to people, people were able to move around a little more freely and get access to food and other items. I think it noticeably dropped the petty thefts and the other crimes that I would hear about. But the almost 2 years of COVID and lockdown did have a spike in the petty crimes, motorbike thefts and things of that nature, just because, in my personal opinion, more people were on the bleeding edge of not surviving. And I can tell you right now, it has gotten a lot better since things have opened back up. After COVID, it's something that's new to us. We're just now really re-experience life pre-COVID. Everybody can pretty much travel freely, very minimal restrictions. You do have to be vaccinated still to get into some places, and I believe a mask is still technically required, yet I think the mandate for that is going away very soon. So we're almost at a level of back to pre-COVID times. Now, as I said before, the safety out here is fine, right? I don't have any problems, and I haven't heard of any problems recently since everybody was able to move around more freely. People are hitting tourist spots again. People are getting out to the beaches, the resorts, the overnight camping places, and I see people generally are just happier and doing better. A lot of them are back to work. A lot of people that were working remotely are still working remotely, and they're happy about that. So overall, everyone generally just seems happy now. It's like a big global sigh of relief. And I have not heard of any kind of uptick in crime. I still haven't heard of any major crimes happening to any of my friends or family that live here. I haven't even heard of any assaults or any physical fights between Filipinos out here that are my friends and neighbors. The only thing I can say that we did feel was we lost one of our motorbikes, and it was more of an opportunity theft. The keys were left in it when someone stepped away from it, and then they stepped back out and the bike was gone. Now the interesting thing is they did find this person after a period of time, and we did prosecute the case, and the guy's in jail. So I mean, something as simple as a motorbike theft maybe took 4 or 5 months to be resolved. However, the cops didn't just give it up and toss it away, and I thought that was pretty good. I can't say anything about living in this town. I'll compare it to the town I lived in the U.S. of a comparable size. Crime there was rampant. Murders happen every month, I would say, and it was a fairly small town as well. Drugs were insanely crazy out there. Let me talk about drugs for a second. Everybody is asking about the Duterte's war on drugs. Let me tell you, I don't see a lot of shabu zombies walking around anymore. I don't see a lot of people crazy off meth or other drugs. I just don't see it like I used to. Now granted, we're out here in a small province. I'm sure the problem still persists in certain areas. But if your location is solid, you're going to be solid. Just the low crime rates. We'll compare them to the U.S. in general, and keep in mind a lot of these statistics are going to be based on Metro Manila being included, right? So we're going to talk about like Chicago's included in the U.S. numbers, so Metro Manila is going to be included in the Philippine numbers. But once you get out of these hot spots and get out into the countryside of the U.S. or the provinces of the Philippines, you'll find that the crime statistics dramatically drop to very pleasant and very safe numbers. Location is a key thing that you have to consider, and living out in the province of Luzon, the island of Luzon in the actual state of Rizal, you can see by looking at the data here on this chart that perception by the people that live here is very good. They perceive crime as low, very low. The crimes that they do look at is maybe things will be stolen in minor crime. But out here, even the people feel and believe that there's just not a crime issue. The issue out here obviously would be a work, job availability issue, and cost of living issue that's associated with living in a province. I also was able to find online some studies that were done that compared the overall crime index to the United Kingdom, the United States, and to China. And China was the lowest, and then I'm not sure how they report, but both the UK and England consistently have a higher crime rate than the Philippines. Now, one thing that happened with Duterte as president, in the last 5 years, of his term, now keep in mind COVID was involved in the middle of this, 73% drop in crime in the country. 73% drop in the 5-year period from when he started office to approximately now. He's on his way out at the time of this recording. And I think that was directly connected to his so-called war on drugs. You get rid of the petty thieves, the murderers, and the crazy people, you know what happens? Crime goes down. I hope it stays down, and I hope the new president continues prosecuting, catching, and taking care of this social issue. I also want to note that we did talk about COVID and the effect on crime it had. I want to show you this quick slide real quick, and I want you to see the spike in unemployment that I was talking about. This unemployment spike and the fact that people were hungry obviously led to petty crimes going up. And that's understandable, and that honestly happens anywhere in the world. When your only choice is to starve or steal, you steal. I was able to do a little bit of research, and the closest I could get to comparable murder rates per 100,000 people, comparing US to Philippine rates, was a 2019 study done in the Philippines that put their murder per capita of every 100,000 at 4.4 in the index. And comparable, a 2022 survey, which is as close as I could get the two together, for the United States, had the US at 7.8 per capita of 100,000 people. Almost twice, or let's just say twice, the murder rate. So, are you safer in the US? Again, it depends on your location. Are you safer in the Philippines? That will also depend on your location. You know, in the time of this filming, there was yet another tragic school shooting in the United States. At this time, 20 plus kids were killed by basically another kid with a gun. I don't need to tell you guys that school shooting, theater shootings, and just mass shootings in general have been a thing over the last 15 years in the United States. It definitely has been. Do I blame guns? No. I blame society and people that are using guns that honestly have no business having guns, regardless whether they got them legal or not. But my point I want to make is you can find 0 mass shootings in the Philippines that are not related to politics or an ongoing war. You don't find guys that just go on a shooting spree here. It's especially in a church, a school, a supermarket. It does not happen. I'm going to pull up some numbers and we can talk about kidnappings, because everyone says if you go to the Philippines, you'll get kidnapped. Kidnappings have happened, right? Tourists still are at risk in certain parts of the Philippines of being kidnapped. I'll pull up those numbers and then I'll compare them side by side here with kidnappings in the US, and then you tell me where you should be afraid. If you're new to my channel and you appreciated this content, I would highly appreciate it if you'd hit the subscribe, alert bell, and like.